was the first Habesha to be in the NBA, to work in the NBA. And if you ask friends that I grew up with, they'll tell you that I've always told them I wanted to be in the NBA.
How do you evaluate the infrastructure in different countries? And does that affect the players that you want to bring out of Africa and take to the NBA?
He scouted stars, built champions, and made history.
Luca Desta became the first African-born executive to win an NBA title.
Lifting the Larry O'Brien Trophy, the ultimate symbol of basketball greatness.
Now he's giving back, running basketball camps across Africa,
Including Giants of Africa alongside mentors and African pioneers.
Some have a very bright memory about the school and some have a bit dark one. But is it about discipline?
It's a lot of discipline for sure. Teachers were very, very strict. It was traumatizing, but at the same time prepared me for my next life.
Tell me about scouting and what is the philosophy behind it?
It's not exact science. It's an opinion that you're giving. It can be totally wrong or totally right. It's hit or miss. But what you're trying to do is like avoid the negative part of it and just try to analyze as much as you can and evaluate the player as much as you can without also over analyzing.
It felt like it was simple. Was that simple?
It was not. There was a lot of sacrifice and then a lot of discipline and dedication that I had in order to get to where I am. If I didn't take my time to do whatever I was asked to do, and then I said, you know what, I can do it tomorrow, I probably wouldn't have been where I am today.
Do you think that the same impact would basketball gain in Africa? Luca, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a lot about you, but interesting things. I don't want to talk about any of this, but just want you to know that I respect the journey that you've taken, beginning from your childhood, from Ethiopia to the other part of the world, to the US. Tell me about your childhood. And before telling me about actually your childhood, tell me who you are, and we'll talk about your childhood.
So, so my name is Luca Desta, born and raised here in Addis Ababa. Mom is Italian, father is Ethiopian. Then they both went to French school, Lycée Gabriel Mariam, and then that's how I ended up in Lycée as well. And one of actually just, I think we had that conversation yesterday a little bit where I grew up traumatized by that school. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, till this day, I still, I wake up and I'm thinking like I didn't graduate yet or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how like traumatizing it was. But it was a great experience, you build relationships, I've ran into a lot of friends from back then, people I grew up with, and everybody has their own, lives now, and it's been fun to look back. I mean, I just went back to Lycée actually a couple of days ago after 18 years, and it was a different feeling for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Lycée is going to hit this podcast because you say...
No, I love no. I when I say traumatizing, it's not a bad thing. It's just more like they prepare you for the real world.
Absolutely.
So like that's what happened for me, and that's why like looking back, I'm glad I went to Lycée for sure.
I had Gus from that school, and they have a different experience and they have a different memory about the school. Some have a very bright memory about the school, and some have a different one, a bit dark one. But is it about discipline and us wanting not to be disciplined? Is that how it is, or there's a different part of it?
Yeah, it's a lot of discipline for sure. It's based out of discipline, and then I remember teachers were very, very strict with us. So I mean, you have to do your homework. You have to just be prepared, because and they prepare you for the real world. Like I said, it was traumatizing, but at the same time, like looking back, like it prepared me for my next life, quote unquote, right? Which was going to the States. But and then the fun memories in Lycée were the games. We played basketball. We were actually one of the best, like French school, being one of the best schools in basketball. We used to have like big rivalries with ICS, Sanford, Greek school, St. Joe, so we had fun. We had our fun.
But what other ways would you want to have it? I mean, do you have some kind of scenario in your mind that a school would be better if there are other elements of it, for example, more play or something like that?
No, I mean, like what I liked about Lisa was we didn't have a lot, so we had only like outdoor courts, and actually every time we wanted to, we were looking forward to going to play at ICS or Sanford because they had indoor courts.
All right.
And when we went there, we were ready to kick their butts every time, which was fun. Because we only had outdoor courts, and it was hard for us to figure things out. But we did the best out of what we had, and then we had really, really good players. So,
would you say the experience the other kids in your village, maybe in your surrounding, had and you had was similar? I mean, it's not common for an Ethiopian kid to talk about basketball and tell you about experiences going to other schools, which are actually international schools, and have those experiences. For example, I didn't have them. What kind of imagination do you have about those kind of experiences that other Ethiopian kids have?
I mean, the imagination for me, I think is for example, I personally I got a basketball hoop when I was a kid for Christmas.
Sure.
My mom and my dad got me a hoop, and I think I was 6 or 7 years old. And then one of my best friends who went to Sanford had the same hoop as well. So that's how we started playing basketball and then we were rivals, but then on the weekends we were best buddies. You know what I'm saying? So but no, the imagination for me was more I outside of I didn't know anything else. I only knew basketball and school. That's all. And then I was also looking forward to our high school parties. We had high school parties on Saturdays. We were looking forward to that because also it was a way for us to meet people from other schools, from Sanford, ICS, St. Joe, Cathedral, wherever. And so that was a way for us to also mingle with people from other schools. But from the basketball part, I personally I was only focused on two things. It was school and basketball. I didn't care about anything else.
Wow. So did you directly go to the US after high school?
Yeah. So what happened was when I was 16, 17, I quit high school. It's a little. I don't think a lot of people know this. I dropped out of school because I wanted to play basketball. That's all I wanted.
All right.
And my dad, who, was a soccer player, played football, and his dream was kind of cut short from my grandfather, who, one of the first pilots, for Ethiopian Airlines. So my dad tried out for Juventus.
Wow.
In Italy, and he made the team. And so his half brother was like, hey, Des, we got a school for him here, and he got accepted for soccer and this and that. And old school mentality, African mentality, they didn't believe in making money through sports. So my grandfather was like, no, you're not going to stay in Italy to play, football. And so anyways, fast forward, that's why my dad was like, okay, so you want to play basketball? Okay. And so he was trying to live his dream through mine. So I went to Italy. I tried out for 5, 6 teams. Okay. I made all the teams. And then I stayed in Turin for about 4 or 5 months. Then that team went from 2nd division to 3rd division. Right. I didn't really enjoy it because I was born and raised here my entire life. So being, in Italy by yourself was a little different. So I came back. Lise took me back.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I graduated in 2003 from 13th grade. But the most disappointing part for me was I lost to ICS in the finals on my final year in high school.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that was very, very painful.
Wow.
Because I wanted to leave high school with the biggest memory, which was on top, right? Being the best team, the best school in basketball, but we lost by I think it was like 2 points or 3 points.
Wow.
In my final year in high school. And then I went to the States. And as a kid, I would, go in the summertime, visit my family, spend the summers there, mostly in Dallas and in LA.
You mean
And
you knew? I mean, you had this experience of the U.S. before?
yeah, but just in the summertime.
All
Like
right.
I would just go and visit my family, spend the summers.
But you would
And-
know about everything happening in there, like the culture, the language, and everything.
Yeah, because like it's different, right? Because you're there on vacation
Absolutely.
versus going there to live. It's
Yeah, yeah.
totally two different things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because when you're on vacation, like you're spending your days, going to the mall or like, going to the park or whatever. Like,
All
and
right.
that's what I did.
Right.
But it's totally different when you live there.
Okay, but I don't want to sound stereotypical about this, but people like you, students who went to like private schools or international schools and others, going to these countries, for example, Europe or the US, do you have a culture shock or something like that?
A little bit, because it's totally different, right? Like, so here, like you wake up, you don't have to really worry about making your bed, making breakfast, or because everything is provided to you. Whereas, like when you go to the States, whether it's States or Europe, right? Like you have to figure stuff out on your own. Meaning, you have to learn how to cook, you have to learn how to wash your clothes, you have to learn how to make your bed, you have to. So all these things, of course, it's culture shock. But then, like if you, like for me, for example, like I wanted to live the American dream.
Yeah.
So when I decided to go, for college, and possibly basketball, like which I didn't really think about, much. I just switched my mindset because it's totally different than being here in Athens. So like when you're in the States, you have to learn a lot of different things, and that's where also discipline comes in. And I give Lise a lot of credit for that too.
Amazing. Then you started playing in the US
Yeah.
immediately.
So my dream was basically like to find a way to integrate in college, to play basketball in college. So my first few months, like I couldn't go to school. So like I was just working.
Yeah.
And I remember my uncle one day said, look, you speak all these languages,
6 to be exact.
5.5.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. And my uncle was like, listen, like, get a job at the airport. Like,
All right.
and Dallas has like one of the biggest airports in the world. And so my uncle was like, yeah, just get a job and you'll be amazed, like the people that you'll meet and all that stuff. Right. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then fast forward like 6 months later, I became like a manager of the store. And so I'm opening the store, like it's like 5 a.m. So I'm opening the store, and then this person just comes up to me and he's asking me like where Starbucks is. So I look at him, I'm like, he looks very familiar.
All right.
And I'm like, yeah, Starbucks is like down the hall from here or whatever. And he's like, okay. So then I was like, man, I wish I asked him who he was because he looks very familiar. And I was like, if he comes back, I'll definitely like approach him. And he comes back. And so I went up to him and I was like, excuse me, like you look very familiar. So he had a hat on.
Yeah.
He had like a big leather jacket on, like a basketball, like a very classic like leather jacket, right? So I'm like, you look very familiar. So he started like smirking, laughing, and then he took his hat off and I was like, oh my God, Donnie Nelson.
Oh.
And he said, yeah, that's me. And I'm like, wow, like, I'm a big fan. I love basketball. Like I grew up playing basketball. Like I know your dad is a big, head coach in the NBA. And he was like, yeah, he just asked me like a couple questions. He said, where are you from? What do you do? What do you want to do? And I said, this is my dream. Like I came here to play basketball, to go to school and play basketball. And he said, all right, look, I'm going on a scouting trip, to Europe, and I'll be back in 2 weeks. Here's my number. And never in a million years, I thought he would call me.
Wow.
So 2 weeks later, he comes back. He calls me and he says, hey, Luca, like this is Donnie. Like I want to invite you at my house, and I have a few scouts at my house and I want you to meet them. And I said, sure. So I went to his house, and then next thing you know, I met my other mentor, His name is Amadou Gallo-Fall, who right now actually he's the president of the Basketball Africa League. And basically at the time, he was the head of international scouting for the Dallas Mavericks. And Donnie Nelson was the GM of the Mavericks. So they both, took me under their wings. They were very intrigued with my background. And then, the love of the game. And so I played in this tournament called the Global Games that they put together. And that was really my last, high level basketball experience that I had in the US. Because I was 20, I was a little bit behind from a skill standpoint against other guys. The other guys were Rudy Gay, NBA players, Rudy Gay, JJ Redick, who right now he's the head coach of the Lakers. I played against all these guys. And I was obviously from a talent perspective, I was a little bit behind. And so my mentors were like, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to play, go to school, figure it out? And I said, I think going to school is obviously my number one objective, but I still want to get involved in the NBA somehow, some way, even if it's not playing basketball. And I was lucky enough because they were running an NBA team already at the highest level. And so I decided to follow their footsteps, which was being in the front office of the NBA. And then they gave me an opportunity. And so when I started from scratch, I started as an intern. So I did everything they asked me to do, from picking people up at the airports, dropping people up at the airport, or being the chaperone when they had guests come in town, they had coaches or GMs from other teams or whatever. I was doing all the little things. And for me, it was a dream come true, even if it wasn't playing basketball anymore, but just being involved with the game of basketball to me was anything I wanted in my life.
Were you enjoying it?
I loved it. Every single moment. So what the funny part is I wasn't even in school yet. I wasn't even in college. So what I was doing was I was just living my dream already. So and then also I knew what I wanted to do in my career. So then the school part, I was I'll figure that out later. And I was interning with the Mavericks, and I didn't go to school until 2007. I didn't go to college. So, but then from 2005 and 2007, I was working for free for the Mavericks. And then I had a regular job where I could just pay my bills. And then I interned with the Mavericks, and then I started going to school. So that was the sacrifice I made for my life.
So it's after that you went to school?
Yep.
What happened? I mean,
well, I just wanted, like I said, I wanted to have a plan for my professional career.
yeah.
Then once I knew exactly which direction I was going towards, then that's when I found then I was like, okay, then I'm not going to waste my time in school. I knew what I wanted. I said, okay, you know what? So this is what I'm doing for my professional career. Okay, let me go to college, major in international business management, business administration, which has nothing really to do with basketball. But at least, I wasn't wasting my time, right? Just going to school just to take, classes or whatever. So I knew exactly what I wanted. And so I didn't waste any time.
When did this scouting come in? Like
I said, when I decided to, because my mentors, that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
So and their job was to find talent players and all that. So they took me under their wings. And so I was like, okay, so I could still live my dream.
Yeah.
Being in the NBA, even if it's not playing. Right. So and fast forward, I was the first Habesha to be in the NBA, to work in the NBA. I was the first Habesha, which it's a dream come true. And then if you ask friends that I grew up with, they'll tell you that I've always told them I wanted to be in the NBA. And somehow, some way, when you put that energy out, to the universe, it comes back to you.
Absolutely. Did you become serious about it immediately? Or?
Yes, immediately. Like I said, I knew what I wanted to do, and so I followed their footsteps. I was under their wings, They were teaching me stuff. Like the basketball portion is easy because like you play the game and all that stuff. But then now it's more about analyzing the game, seeing it in a different angle, and then just trying to. And so my ultimate goal too was, still is obviously, is to be a president or a GM of an NBA team.
Amazing. I mean, I was reading about scouting and anything related to it, beginning from yesterday, and I read different papers and tried to watch videos. And my understanding of it was very different from the understanding I have now. It involves several things, but I want you to tell me, to tell my audience what it is that you do, because we are in Africa. The predominant sport in Africa, I don't have the research, but is soccer. If I'm not correct, you can correct me, but people don't have that deeper understanding about NBA, basketballing, the game of basketballing, anything, attributes that are around it.
Yeah.
Tell me about scouting and what is the philosophy behind it and what is it, the core of it?
Like so the scouting part basically is you're evaluating talent, right? So like you're basically going to games and watching. Like I've watched thousands of games. You can watch also games on. We have like different platforms of watching games and seeing. Like if someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, you need to watch this player," so then I find a we have platforms to like watch the game and then analyze the player and find ways. And then obviously the ideal way of scouting too is when you go watch a player live in person. What that means is you're able to evaluate not just the game or how he plays, it's also like his physical attributes. How tall is he? How long is he? Is he fast? Is he slow? Is he athletic? Those are all the things like that you really, really look into in details, especially when you're going to watch a player play in person. Then the other thing is it's not exact science. It's not, you have to be objective, and then it's like it's an opinion that you're giving. So what that means is like your opinion on the player can be either like totally wrong or totally right. It's hit or miss. So, but what you're trying to do is like avoid the negative part of it and just say, let's just try to analyze as much as you can and evaluate the player as much as you can without also like over analyzing, and the scouting, that's just really like how it is. And then you just watch, like for me, for example, I grew up watching NBA games since I was a little kid. I used to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch live games, and then go to school and then brag about it, with friends. Like, hey, did you see what happened last night? Did you see the shot Kobe made or Jordan, whatever? Those are the things like, and it's just a passion. Like, for me, basketball was everything for me. So like and basketball has taken me in a lot of places in the world. And it also introduced me to people I never thought I would meet in my life. And like, you'll be surprised like how the basketball world is, like how small it is, but at the same time, like it's also like it's a great community where people know each other, or like you're one angle away from knowing the other person. So it's and it's taken me a lot of places. And then to your point, when you said Africa, where I'm from, it's here, it's Ethiopia. So what we're doing with my mentor, who's now the president of, the Basketball Africa League, which is under the umbrella of the NBA, that's also a way for them to develop the game of basketball now on the continent. And how do you do that too? It's also, you're trying to build infrastructure, stuff that I didn't have growing up, and that's what I was also trying to do. I'm trying to do, and it's building infrastructure, and it's also allowing kids, to just in the neighborhoods go out and play basketball. Because like, that's the tough part. Like, we can all go out, this, we can all go out and play soccer, right?
Absolutely.
Like you put goals with rocks and that's it. But basketball is different. So, but at least trying to find a way to like build those, courts in every community where people can have access to, and And I think the main thing is also like try to be when you want young kids to be exposed at a young age. When it's 19, 20, it's a little tough. And that's the main thing for me too, is like to have them get them exposed at a younger age so they can have access to it. And then if God willing, like if one kid loves the game and he starts playing when he's 12, 13 years old, by the time he's 19, like he might be someone that has a chance to pursue this dream.
Amazing. Tell me about the journey, like the journey of becoming a scout agent, or what is the proper name? You tell me about that. And you touched not only one team, but different teams, and about those experiences. Did you blend immediately into the system, the ecosystem of making people feel that you belong there? What was the journey like?
No, that's a great question. Like I initially first of all, it was hard for me to believe that I was involved in the NBA. And then, but once I got in it, like it wasn't easy, but then you also had to sacrifice a lot of things in life. Like for me, for example, like when I was, even as an intern, like I was looking at the big picture, which means it was like I wanted to, like I had a goal in mind. It's to be a GM or president of an NBA team, whatever it takes to get there. So my mentors are like, all right, this is what you want to do? Okay, so you start from here. You do this. Like we'll show you the ropes. But then at the end of the day, like they can show me all the stuff that I want, like, or they can guide me, right? But then at the same time, like I have to do the work, and the sacrifice. And, when friends are like telling you like, hey, like we're going out tonight, we're doing this. And I'm like, no, like I have to work tomorrow. Like I have to wake up early to go pick up this coach or like this GM, but it was just a way for me to just like focus. And I was like, that was the main thing. And like, yes, there was distractions, but like at the same time, like I was still able to focus on my ultimate goal, which was the scouting part, and then learning. Like, and then you, in this business, like you continue to learn. Like it's always going to be something that you learn every day. That's like there's nothing, you cannot like walk around life and then walk around people and say, oh, I know everything. No, like we learn every day. I learn every day. Like I learn something new every day. So, and it's been fun, and so like the scouting part, like I said, like you said, like it's just I've been integrated right now. Like looking back, I have so many relationships with people across not just the NBA, but across the world. Like, people reach out, people, agents or whatever, like, but it's also a relationship based driven business. So at the end of the day, you always have to maintain those relationships and also like cultivate those relationships and make sure that like you treat people right, you treat people the way you want to be treated. And so, and then, you're only one phone call away if you need a favor or if you need anything.
Absolutely. No. Okay. This is the most interesting part for me. I mean, talking about Africa and relating the contributions that you have towards basketball to Africa is a big thing for me, but I believe it's the same for you as well. How did that start?
It's my mentor, like the one that's still, he's the president of the BL. Like his vision has always been, giving back, okay, to the continent. So he's from Senegal.
Yeah.
And for the last 25 years, he's got this nonprofit program called Seed Academy. And basically what it is, it's like it's an academy that he has, and he's helping young kids go to school, play basketball, right? And then if some of these kids have an opportunity to leave Senegal to use the game of basketball as a tool to get an education, that's what he's been doing. And so these kids, there's plenty of kids right now that are going to college from that academy, and they're all going to like high major colleges, to play basketball. But then the main thing though is it's not basketball, it's education, right? But using the game of basketball to use that as a tool and to get an education. And that's how he's been building that. And then obviously once he left the Mavericks is when I took his position. he left the Mavericks to open an NBA Africa office here in Johannesburg. So he left the Mavericks. I took his spot, and then next thing you know, like he's developing all these businesses with the NBA in South Africa. And basically, what the goal was to grow the game of basketball on the continent. So, and I was also involved in this program called Basketball Without Borders, and that's an NBA event that happens every summer. They do it in different continents: Europe, Africa, Asia, South America. But I'm involved because of my roots, me being from where I am here. I'm only involved in the one in Africa. So, for example, like we in that program, it's basically they bring in 60 to 80 kids, boys and girls, under the age of 18 from across the continent. And what happens is for that week, they come and we teach them the game of basketball, the fundamentals, from scratch: how to dribble, how to pass, how to shoot, all these little things. And then obviously then we also teach them the values of life and all that. And who also comes there during that program are NBA coaches, NBA players, and all that. Funny story, 2011 and 2013, there were 2 kids from that program who today are NBA superstars. Joel Embiid from Cameroon, and then Pascal Siakam from Cameroon. Both of these kids came from that program called Basketball Without Borders. And I remember those 2 kids. I remember coaching them.
Wow.
And now like you look back, they're like NBA superstars. But that's what you want, right? Like it's only 1 or 2 kids from 100 kids that come out every year. But at least, it's a way it's an inspiration for the next generation, And so I've been involved in that program for, like I said, the last 16 years. And so it's been a great journey. And then also, like I said, if these kids don't end up becoming NBA players, you still have a way to impact or to have an impact in their lives.
Amazing. Tell me, if you have the experience to go around different African countries, tell me about the infrastructure, because you have this first-hand, not information, actually experience of watching how the infrastructure is actually developed and watching people play in that kind of environment. And you come to Africa, you go to different places in Africa. We have our focuses. For example, I mentioned football or the soccer being the main thing that we focus on.
Yeah.
And there is basketball that you are interested in, and that is your job.
Yeah.
So how do you evaluate the infrastructure in different countries, and does that affect the ability or the result, the outcome of the players that you want to bring out of Africa and take to the NBA?
I mean, yeah, because like I've been to plenty of countries here on the continent, and every country is different.
Yeah.
Every country has different priorities, motivations. Like for example, like I've been to Senegal a lot. So for example, Senegal, yes, it's soccer, but it's also basketball. So like you see in neighborhoods like basketball courts and kids playing. South Africa, for example, like you're talking about, like it's one of the wealthiest countries on the continent. They have infrastructure, but basketball is not the number 1 sport, So and that's where like the NBA comes in, and they're trying to impact or influence, right, the kids, and trying to make them love the game of basketball so they can start playing at a younger age. Like a country like in South Africa, like you have all the means, you have all the great infrastructure, but like nobody uses it.
Wow.
Because basketball is not their number 1. But that's where the NBA comes in, and they're trying to change the narrative. And then you have, places like here where you're like 60% of the population are teenagers. So how can we impact, or how can we touch all these kids, right? So for me, it's just to find a way to build those courts and then have them just, play basketball. Like there's this program, I don't know if you're familiar, Ethiopian Skate. You heard of it?
Yeah.
Like they're building skate parks, all
absolutely.
over. So one of my friends, like he's from LA, like so I love that concept, because like you're building a skate park in any neighborhood, and you have kids like skateboarding. It's fun. Like
Yeah.
it keeps them out of trouble, right? And so for me, that's my thing. Like I'm trying to do that with the basketball part. Like trying to figure out a way to get courts or find infrastructure where we can touch as many people as we can and have kids get exposed to the game at a young age.
Do you have special attributes that you see from these kids? I mean, when you scout or when you actually watch them grow or play basketball, is it the physical thing, the talent only that you focus on, or are there some other things that you see?
It's a combination of different things. For example, here in Africa in general, the most intriguing thing and talent that there is on the continent is the size, the length, and the athleticism. That's all natural. Like you look at kids who just like are super long, super athletic, but because they're naturally gifted, right? But the basketball part is where it's still a long ways away. Why? Because like I said, lack of infrastructure, lack of, courts where people can actually go and play at a young age. So that's the only thing. But at the same time though, like the rawness is what it is with these kids. Cause like we call it raw. Like, so when I look at a player, especially from Africa, I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's super gifted, but he's raw, because he hasn't played. He hasn't done anything, since the young age. So how can we change that? How can we get these kids, to start playing basketball at a young age? And I think the only way to do that is to find ways to build courts in neighborhoods and figure things out.
Well, would you say you're successful in Africa?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Success in terms of what?
In terms of actually getting the kids that you want to take to the US to play. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here in Ethiopia, I haven't really done that. But in general, like, with all these programs that I told you about, Basketball Without Borders and all that stuff, like, we've helped a lot of kids.
All right.
Like I said, even if they don't end up being NBA players, I told you, like, the last 2 kids that are NBA players today, and actually not just average players, they're superstars, came from that program, and it's only 2 of them in the last 13, 14 years. But how can we multiply that, right? How can we figure it out? That's the biggest challenge. And like I said, if we all come together with friends, like I have Luol Deng, one of my good friends who does a lot of great things with South Sudan. My mentor does stuff with Senegal.
I was about to ask you about South Sudan. Was that a hype? Something was
I don't think it was
happening?
hype. I think they were really good.
Can you tell me about that? Yeah.
I mean, he's like the way he's done that. Like, he took over like a couple of years ago. He built the team. He also hired the right people, around him to coach, to develop the program. And it's just skyrocketed from there. And he's doing a great job. And especially when you think about that tiny country, right? And he's done an amazing job. And I think they're only going to continue to get better.
All right. Luca, I don't know if you're interested about history, but mostly we talk about the history of the things that we talk about. For example, today we're talking about basketball, and the other time we were talking about football, soccer, and how it came to be dominant in Africa. And my friend and I were talking about this, and he asked, what made it popular in Africa? I mean, is it because of colonialism or anything related to that? Do you have any insight about that?
Basketball? I don't know. I don't think it's tied to.
Is that hip hop thing or pop
It's probably
culture?
the culture. It's probably the
All
culture. Right. Yeah, you're right. Like I think, like for example, for me, like I grew up like Allen Iverson was my guy. Like after Jordan retired and all that, like everything was Allen Iverson for me. I had earrings because of Allen Iverson. Like I have tattoos here and there, but like not. But Allen Iverson, I think, set the tone from a cultural standpoint. hip hop and all that. Like, and I think him doing that was, to me, for example, like, that's all I watched. Like, and then you want to, and then it's funny because like then basketball players want to be hip hop artists,
Yeah.
and then the hip hop artists want to be basketball players. But no, I think it's the, like you said, I think it's the culture. I think it's the hip hop thing that at least I watched growing up here, because I remember like when I pierced both of my ears, everybody looked at me crazy,
Amazing.
and I was like, well, that's all I know.
Amazing. I mean,
I'm a basketball player, so
yeah,
like,
definitely.
they wear earrings, I wear earrings. That was it.
I mean, definitely. But tell me about the business side of it. I mean, we talk about football or soccer. We know the money that is made out of it,
Mm-hmm.
and the wealth that is created out of it. And do you think that the same impact would basketball gain in Africa?
I think so. I mean, like, the NBA is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, with the TV rights and all that stuff, like, that's where they make their money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find a way to like have deals with TV rights here on the continent, where like the NBA will be seen, in all 50, how many countries are here? 54 on the continent?
55.
55, 54. So if the NBA is able to like touch
People are gonna kill me if that isn't correct. So somebody has to Google that,
know, right?
because
They gotta
I'm thinking
Google it.
about South Sudan,
Yes.
and I think that's the last country that gained independence
Independence.
or separated from the Sudan, the country. So I think 55,
55,
maybe
54, okay.
one of us
Yeah.
could be right. Yeah,
But and I think the NBA does a great job.
yeah.
Like expanding, and not just that, and also like brand, marketing and branding the NBA brand. So like, like I'm sure like everybody in every country in the world, like they know what the NBA is.
Yeah.
So I think the NBA does a good job doing that. And so like if they continue to like doing what they're doing, like I think in every country, like it's there's a lot of money to be made for everybody, for sure.
Amazing. Any particular project that we have to know about that you are engaged in?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm working on a few things. So obviously we're partnering with some really, really good companies here, which will help me build basketball courts.
All right.
I don't want to give too many details because I don't want to jinx it.
All right.
But the idea basically is to build those courts and then have kids get exposed to the game of basketball at a young age. Like that's what I want to do. Like I want them to have the things that I didn't have when I was their age.
55 countries? 54 countries.
54.
Yeah,
you're right.
I claim to be, history buff, but
yeah.
Amazing. So, tell me about your observation in the continent, Africa in general, and in Ethiopia. People shout here and there, especially during the weekends. And when you ask what that shouting is all about, it's about soccer.
Okay.
Do you really believe there would come a time where people would have that kind of, feeling towards basketball? Yeah.
Yes, I truly believe that. But then also you have to, like, I feel like I'm responsible for the things that I've done throughout my career in basketball. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I am the one who should find a way to get more people involved in basketball. How do I do that? I'm still trying to figure it out. It's a day by day thing. But then, for example, like I've also created this group chat that I have in the States with all Habeshas, who are involved in sports, but mainly basketball. So, and a lot of them now are involved in different parts of the game. Like some of them are agents, some of them are coaches in college, or some of them are whatever. But like, how can we bring everybody together, and how can we find a way to grow the game of basketball, the game that we love, in our country.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest challenge that I have. But I truly believe that like if we're all together, we can, and we have the same uh, goals, same same things that we want to achieve. I think we can. There's a lot of things that we can do.
Mm-hmm. Look, I'm not belittling anything that you did. It's great, but going to the US and becoming the person that you are, there is a lot of things. I mean, people come and they tell you about they tell you about resilience, they tell you about hard work and everything. You made it look very simple. Was that really simple? Like going to the US, meeting some guy, and after that, engaging with that individual, meeting your mentor, and having that conversation. I know there is professionalism in it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there is discipline in it, but it felt like it was simple. Was that simple?
It was not.
Tell me about it.
It was like I said, it was a lot of sacrifice and then a lot of discipline and dedication that I had in order to get to where I am. Like I missed a lot of, birthdays or family functions, whatever, because of basketball. Because if I didn't take my time to do whatever I was asked to do and to get to where I am today, like, and then I said, you know what? Oh, I can do it tomorrow, or yeah, I'll hang out with my friends today, and then the basketball part comes tomorrow. If I did that, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. But because I was always focused, determined, I was ambitious, and also the fact that I was the first Habesha to be involved in the NBA. To me, I took that with a lot of pride. So, and I was that's what kept me going. That's what motivated me to achieve more things. And then next thing you know, like 2011, I was an NBA champion. With guys I grew up watching. Jason Kidd. Jason Terry, Dirk Nowitzki, Sean Marion. Those are all the guys I grew up watching. Then I ended up winning an NBA championship with those guys.
Wow.
So just let alone just being the first Habesha, but then I ended up being also the first African-born, to work in the front office of an NBA team to win an NBA title in 2011. And then obviously after that, other African-born guys won titles, NBA titles, but I was the first one.
You made it sound so simple. That's why I asked you about that thing. But I know how difficult it must be, and
It's
I can
hard.
say, yeah, it's hard.
It's hard because, like I said, this is my first time coming back here in 18 years during this time of the year. But I decided to come because I wanted to spend time with my family. My grandmother's getting old, and my mom was here. My dad is here. My uncles, my brother came with his kids and his wife. So like I was like, if I don't take advantage of this now, I will regret it. But just to give you an idea that like I'm like 110% basketball every day. Like I don't do anything else.
Amazing. Are you afraid of the Habesha traits that you may have? For example, humility, excessive humility, and these traits that we have, not wanting to offend people, being reserved. Do you think those can be some of the hindrances that can keep you from achieving or being where you want to be, like the GM of one of the teams in there or something like that?
They can. You're right. That's a good point. But like for me, for example, like I'm more like you have to adapt. Like and obviously like living in a different country, and being also a Black person, like it's hard, but it's challenging. But at the same time, like for me at least, it's the one thing I always say when I wake up in the morning is like, first of all, I don't forget where I come from, who I am, and the number one thing too for me is, like not forgetting where you're coming from and how you got to where you are today are the things that keep me going, because this can get taken away from me tomorrow. Easy. Easy. But the fact that you have to be humble, and again, not forget where you come from, and all these things are, to me, what motivate me, and then what give me the reason to continue to make my family proud, my friends proud. Because like I said, it can get taken away from you quick.
Absolutely. What is that one trait that you suggest that a kid who want to achieve a lot in playing basketball or becoming big in that arena should own or should possess, should have?
So first of all, it's passion.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're not passionate about something, and you don't go for it, then you're wasting your time. So for me, and I keep telling all the kids too, like I'm like, if you're passionate about being a pilot, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a teacher, whatever, if you don't have a passion for those things, then like, so for me, for example, my passion was basketball. And I did whatever I could, and I did whatever it took for me to get to where I am. And that's sacrifice, discipline, hard work, dedication, and all that. So I think, to me, and there's no secret, I've been fortunate to be around a lot of good players, but I've been around some very, very like great Hall of Famers players. And I've seen how they work. And it's no secret. Like, yes, you practice with the team, you do this and you do that. But then I saw what separates the best player versus the great player. The great player puts in extra work, when nobody's watching. The great player puts in, just extra effort, extra discipline, like everything. Like that's what separates from good to great. And I've had a chance to witness that with my own eyes. And that's why I keep telling the young kids all the time, it's, if you're not passionate about something, and if you don't give it 110%, then you're not going to achieve good things.
Amazing. Would you say a poor kid from Ethiopia, I mean, one of the cities in Ethiopia or the countryside of Ethiopia with a passion could make it to that place?
Absolutely. If I did it, why can't he do it?
You made it because you went to this prestigious school. An
Ivy
League of some sort. Listen, you're from Addis. Yeah. Like you have all the infrastructure around you, people supporting you. I'm talking about a kid from maybe Gambela or Benishangul Gumuz, one of the states in Ethiopia, who tries to watch the games of basketball, but don't have the infrastructure and the necessary equipment around him, but has this passion. Yes. Do you really believe that kid can make it?
I think so. If you put him in the right situation, he could. Absolutely.
Okay. I was reading about this. I'm really becoming passionate about the whole thing. The kids that are going to the US from any of the African countries, they face difficulties like language barriers, and the culture shock thing is sometimes really big. For example, going to the US from Sudan or one of the countries, maybe let's call it Congo. When you go to the US, you see all these big things. You eat whatever you want to eat. You have people around you supporting you. Putting their beliefs in you. And do you really believe if you don't have the proper mind to say this kid can make it to whatever you expect him to make it to?
No, that's true. And you know what? It's funny because I actually interact with a lot of these kids.
Yeah, right.
Because they don't have anybody in the States. They're by themselves. They have guardians and all that stuff, yes. But then at the end of the day, mom and dad are not with them, right? They're by themselves. Some of them have never seen snow before, So it's hard. And I totally understand that. It's super, super hard. So but then our roles, myself or Luol, because also Luol has helped a lot of young kids, come to the States and go to school play basketball or whatever. So like our job is to make it easier for them. Like our job is to have them just focus on two things: basketball and school. And our job is to make them just like not worry about anything else. Like, so help them in any way we can so that they could just only focus on two things, and that's basketball and school, where like they can be very, very successful at. And I've seen it a lot, like, because, you know, they're alone, they don't have their families, there's time difference, you know, they haven't seen snow before, like, just a lot, you know, like some of them may be tired of going to class, you know, in the morning because it's snowing. Like, I've been there, done that, you know, so, no, it's hard. It's super, super hard. And so that's why, but then at the end of the day, you know, even if like, let's say they don't end up, and that's what I'm trying to do, is like, even if they don't end up being NBA players, you know, at least they got an education, you know, like they went to school and they got a degree, you know, and then they can work towards whatever. And it's also their responsibility to come back to their countries and give back to the next generation. Like that's what it's supposed to be. Like someone made a quote one day, which I think I'll never forget this. It's like, it was Larry Bird. He said, leave the game. When you leave the game, make sure you leave it better than when you found it. Which means is basically like, when you got to where you are and then you've done everything that you could, when you leave, make sure it's better than when you found it. So like, to us, that's what it is. For me, for example, like, I want to impact as many people as I can in order for them to become better citizens and better people, better human beings.
All right. This is going to be a very basic question, but it was a curiosity of mine, like, to watch podcasts and interviews between basketball players and as individuals, and I find these people to be really articulate, professional, really powerful and charismatic. I was like, I meet people from Ethiopia, athletes, like soccer players, and maybe some basketball players as well, but I don't find them being that way. Is there any different kind of training for them to become this charismatic? Even look at yourself. What is happening? I mean, you wouldn't tell me that it's the education system of the US. I meet people.
It's Lycée.
It's not. I mean, Steph Curry didn't go to Lycée, or these people didn't go to these prestigious schools. So I'm really amazed, but it could be rudimentary or basic, but I'm really amazed. Can we do something about it for the athletes in Ethiopia, or for the people that are engaged in this kind of endeavors in Ethiopia?
Yeah, I think you're talking about media training, and I think that's something that we could maybe, like, you know, once we have like a well-oiled machine, I think, in terms of like the structure of basketball, and then we have, you know, we know where we're going and which direction we're going. I think then after that, the media training and all that will come after, in my opinion. Because yes, like all these players, like they're all, you know, they have to do interviews, so they have to, you know, learn how to speak properly, and then how to articulate, and how to, you know, communicate with people. So like that's the number one thing. But here, I think it's with media training. I think a lot of stuff can be done.
What's the immediate next for you?
Building the courts. That's my next thing. My next thing is really like just being able to build courts, and then really like, you know, get as many people, you know, to love the game and to play the game. And, you know, he's like a little brother to me. Like he's doing a pretty good job too with his own. He's got a basketball thing called Addis Basketball. I don't know if you've heard of it. So he's doing an amazing job with what he has and what he can. But I think like if we join forces too, like I think there's a lot of stuff that we can do together. So, but yeah, my number one thing right now is basketball.
What is your message for the people that are really proud of you, like the Habesha guy who made it in the NBA and who's representing the Habesha people, or the Black people, maybe from this part of the world, Africa? And I know you are so humble, and you wouldn't want to tell me something glorifying about yourself, but yeah, we're proud of you. So what is the feeling and the take you have of that?
Like looking back, man, I sometimes I actually have to pinch myself, and say, is this real?
Yeah.
You know, I'm going into year 20 or 21 in the NBA. 3 teams: um, Dallas, Lakers, and Utah, and I've won 2 championships already with with 2 of the teams I grew up watching, the Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Lakers. So for me, like honestly, like if tomorrow I'm done with the NBA, I'm good. Like and I'm not saying it in an arrogant way. Like I've done it all. I've seen it all. Yes, do I want to achieve that ultimate goal, which is becoming a GM of a team or a president of a team? Absolutely. Like that's my next challenge. But if tomorrow it's done, I'll sleep fine with it, because my next thing is really like we've talked about, previously, is I want to give back to my community. I want to help the next generation with the things that I've had, the opportunities that I've had. I want to give it back, and I want to do it in a better way.
Luca, thank you for the representation, and thank you for being you in that arena.
No, thanks, Habesha. I really appreciate it. Like I'm honored and super, super humbled to be part of the show. Thank you.
All right.